Damn this. Did you hit the record button yet?
I hit the record button. So 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that was nice. And your hands kind of looked like a vagina in front of the camera.
Welcome to
the spoiler cast episode, spoiler discussion of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice on PS4
As I like to
and
say,
PC.
Hellblade, I am Sensua's sacrifice.
Oh my god, there were so many times I kept calling this game I Am Setsuna instead of Senua's Sacrifice.
Yep.
Yeah. Weird name.
Two completely different games that have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
But Senua, Setsuna, get it? Mm-hmm. Get it?
I do. That's why I said it.
Right off the bat, let's talk about the title. I kind of think it's dumb.
Absolutely. There is a Hellblade in it at a certain point in the game.
Well, kind of. I mean, the hell that we go to, Helheim, and Hella, they all have one L in it. It's not even the same hell.
Yeah.
So calling
that
it
threw me
Hellblade
off
with
at
two
first
L's?
because they kept saying hell over and over again. I don't have the captions on, and I was reading things online about it, and I'm like, hell 1L, hell 1L. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of typos in this. And I did more research and realized that I was the idiot.
I think it also, the title Hellblade, it's like the antithesis of Heavenly Sword. Mm-hmm. I think it puts an expectation that's going to be very combat heavy. And I think that's the wrong expectation to go into with this game, and you'll kind of be disappointed if you expect it to be a super, like, oh man, I'm going to hack and slash, and especially coming from the people who made Heavenly Sword and DMC. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of furthers that expectation.
There's a lot of combat in the game, but it's not the central focus.
No, it is absolutely not the central focus of the game. Overall, I fucking love this game. It is one of my favorite games now of all time, but we all know that I get a boner for good stories and good storytelling. Mm-hmm. So that obviously is why I might enjoy it a little bit more than you did, even though I think you like it a lot. But
I think this is going to be a game that's going to point out, I think, there are big differences in how we approach games. And then I approach it from a gameplay perspective. And not that you don't, but I think you tend to lean more towards story than gameplay.
Right, which is why you loved Zelda, and I thought it was a piece of trash.
Yep. Because the story was garbage in that game.
Yeah. It was
the story, I'll say, the story in this game is really, really, really good. I was still very confused in the beginning of the game of what the story was really about until I got about halfway into it.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where I can't remember the exact moment, but there's a moment where she's talking about her like lost lover or something like that, and it started to make more sense for me. And I wasn't sure if I just wasn't paying enough attention in the beginning, or if it's halfway through the story it starts to become clear.
So let's talk about the story a little bit.
Yeah.
We start out, and we're just this girl canoeing on a little river made out of some logs. Mm-hmm. There's a breathing head on our belt. And you are this Celtic warrior girl who is going into Viking territory in the Norse, the people who believe in Norse mythology and things like that. And so you're kind of learning about this along the way.
Yeah. So while you're canoeing up, the one thing is you must wear headphones for this game.
Yes.
I played for like 30 minutes without headphones, and it was not the same experience. As you're going and you're canoeing, there are like voices in your head talking to you, and they're kind of coming from different directions, but they're all from within your head. At least the character's head, Senua's head.
Yeah.
And they're kind of filling you in on a lot of the stuff. And while you're there too, the scenery is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I'll let you continue the story, because I think you understand the story more than I do.
We're going in, the whole point of the story is she has the head of her dead lover, the person who really only ever kind of treated her as an adult with this quote-unquote sickness that she has, or treated her as a person, really. Mm-hmm. And he was viciously killed, and this torture method where they have like the skin, I guess it's not torture, maybe they might have done it after he was dead, where like the skin of his back and he's all strung up and things like that. But apparently, according to this mythology, if you take his head to Hela, the person who guards Helheim, where all of these souls go from suicide and all these like types of death, then she can kind of set him free. So that's her overall mission, is to go and get, what's his name? I haven't played it in a couple weeks. Starts with a D. Dillion.
Dillion.
Go and kind of make peace with Dillion and allow him to kind of move on. And so that's her main goal. But along the way, she's afflicted with psychosis. That's just this mental illness that she has. And psychosis is defined by two things, and it is hallucinations. So seeing things or hearing things or even feeling or tasting, smelling, all these things that aren't actually there. And delusions. So like giving meaning to things that actually have no meaning at all, or seeing things as more significant than they actually are in real life. These are things that she's struggling with, and the gameplay is so ingrained in these two concepts as you're kind of going through these things, and as you're approaching, like needing to get the sword that lets you. It's the only sword that's able to kill Hela, and she puts so much meaning into this real one sword that really doesn't quite matter that much.
Spoiler.
Yeah, this is a spoiler discussion.
I don't think you mentioned spoiler.
Yeah, we did.
You said that? Okay.
I said it's a spoiler chat. It's the first thing we
guess
said
the
after I said
name
your hands
will
look like a
also
vagina.
That's true. That's true. My hands do look like a vagina all the time.
They do. So she gets the sword. She makes her way to the center of Helheim with Hela there, and she realizes that the reason she has a psychosis, and that the event that she realized kind of spawned all of this psychosis, is her mom being killed in front of her, because her mom had this thing that she called the darkness, which is her psychosis as well, and her dad.
It takes place a long time ago. They
yeah,
didn't know about
long time ago. Yeah, hence Vikings and Celtics.
Yeah. The Vikings and Celtics are still around, dummy.
You're right. It's a show on Hulu. That's right. Vikings. So her dad kills her mom in front of her, burns her alive, and that kind of scars her and starts this mental illness within her. And then she finds out that her dad's a very bad person. We find out that he had made her sit in this kind of solitary confinement hole in the ground with runes written all over the sides of the walls. And so she's fucked up. And she finds this boy named Dillion one day who... She's looking at him from afar. She's like studying him as he's fighting and things like that. And then one day she approaches him and he's like, "Hey, who are you?" And she's like super shy and she's like not used to people talking to her. And then she falls in love with him and they have a great time. And then Daddy says, "Nope, you're not to see him again." Banishes her. Murder in the court. Dillion's dead. She gets to the end, realizes all this shit is Daddy's fault. He's a bad person. And that when she goes to try to kill Hela, she can't kill Hela, and she realizes that it's all kind of in her head. And at the very end, she moves on and she decides, hey, I need to put you to rest, Dillion. Not only in like a sense that I need to let you go, but I need to move on myself and realize that I depended on you for so much of who I am and my importance in life because you saw me as a person, so I leaned on you. But I need to realize that I'm a strong person myself. And I need to let you go in that aspect and not rely on you so much for my own self-worth.
A very consistent theme throughout the game is something that she experiences through her journey that really comes to fruition at the very end is that the toughest battles are the battles of your mind.
Yeah.
Like the battle of self-identity and kind of finding out who you are and having a confidence in who you are and moving past great traumas.
Yep.
As well. It's like, I think the central theme, minus the psychosis and all that, is just how do you tackle these really hard issues on your own. And this is just, the whole thing is seeing her horrific journey through that.
Yeah.
Through her psychosis. And
the torture that her own mind is putting her through.
Yeah, and it's really torturous. It's really terrifying.
Yeah.
At times. So do you want to get into like... So I think that's pretty much the story. I mean, it's actually a very simple story.
The one thing that I wanted to point out at the end is I love the fact that at the end she moves on from relying so much on Dillion. Mm-hmm. She learns she's strong on her own. But you do hear that the little whispers in her ears at the very end, and then you see her kind of clench her fist, and she has it under control, but she's not healed. Mental psychosis is not a thing that goes away overnight, but it's something that she's coping with and learning to live with. So I think that's really cool too. She's still got these demons in her head, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about kind of the gameplay mechanics, sound design, all that kind of fun shit. What do you want to talk about first?
Let's do the gameplay mechanics first. So it's all, the gameplay is really all about battling through these illusions that she's kind of dealing with in some sense. And they could be like she comes to a door and there are these symbols on the door and she has to find those symbols somewhere in the environment around her.
Or I think what's so fucking cool is that, I don't know if you caught this or not, these symbols or runes that she has to find in her environment are the same runes and symbols that were lining the walls when she was solitary confinement, where she was thrown in there. Yep. So
Well, that's,
she's
that's where
given
she
meaning
got
to
that
these.
from. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a few different kind of puzzles that you experience with the game. So that's one of those puzzles. Another one is you have these little portals, and when you go through the portal, something in the environment has changed. Whether it is a new bridge is there, or it's that a wall has gone away and now you can go through that wall. There's another element of like there's something missing in the world, and like the pieces of it are kind of scattered in a way that you have to align your perspectives so all the pieces are back together again.
Right.
And completes, and it's usually a broken bridge of some kind. There's also combat mechanics, which I actually thought were the best mechanics in the game, actually.
Yeah. That's the end of the puzzle. Like, the game is very much
three
puzzle
puzzles,
plus
yeah.
combat. Puzzle and combat, and kind of shifting between those two. I liked that the puzzle stuff was simple. Like, it didn't get overly complex. It was still, at points, like, there was some thought involved.
Yeah,
But,
I would say this with the let's talk about the puzzle mechanics a little bit, and then we'll go into the combat side of things. So, I will say this: the puzzle mechanics. How do I explain this? Okay, so step beforehand. So you do these two little tasks before you can open the door and cross the bridge. That's like really the journey to Helheim. Those two areas, I thought, were at a lower par in terms of the puzzle design than the post bridge areas.
Sure, those were essentially. That's the part you hated.
I hated like
those were essentially
a
a tutorial.
But it wasn't a good tutorial because it was a poor scaling of difficulty, I think, where you'd have like really simple versions of these puzzles, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, a little tiny thing changed, figure out what it was, and the difference was, and was it like a tree had, there's a part like a tree had a slightly different color on top of it, and then you could walk on top of that tree. I spent an hour in that area and had no idea. I think part of the problem is that I'm playing on a TV that's 720p and quite small. And so I probably didn't notice these differences, and it drove me insane to the point of going online, watching a video of someone doing this, and being like, "Oh, you fucking kidding me? That's how that was done." I was like really pissed. And then post the bridge, they were really smart and clever in how they guided you through. And I think here's the difference: the beginning portions of the games are a lot more open. They're more open environments.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that the posts are more linear and are a little bit more guided. And I think that's what made it less frustrating. Is that it's a more linear. The more linear this game was, the better it was. And I think it's kind of ties in that whole like when the story's pulling you along to a greater degree. There wasn't a lot of story in those tutorial areas. It's kind of more of like okay, I'm in this environment right now. How can I figure this out? Because there's not a lot of guidance.
That's so funny that you say that, because we talked about last week how you texted me on a part where you're like, I don't understand about the fire thing. What am I supposed to do when you look at the fire door? And I was like, you run through the fire door. And you're like, oh, I just didn't know how to run. Like, the part that took you 6 hours, I never got stumped on a puzzle the entire game. Even
drove
like
me
in
nuts.
The tree thing, you're like, I never, the 6 hour chunk you spent on the first part of the game took me maybe 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm. It drove me absolutely insane.
I don't know what it was. Maybe it is your TV, or maybe it's that you like have a little bit of, I don't know. Maybe you needed to sleep, or maybe you're stupid.
I'm probably just stupid. I think that's the most likely. But I even looked on Google and I'm like, Hellblade bad puzzles, and just wanted to see people say, I'm the only one. I think I'm the only one who's thinking this. But it drove me insane. To me it seems like they had a different team working on the early set of puzzles over the last set of puzzles, or maybe just the puzzle design clicked for me and made more sense as I got further into it, but it drove me nuts. There's one where you're in like a little, it's like quasi village. There's like two buildings and the doors in the middle of the two buildings, and there's one where you have to climb up this little watchtower, walk over, and there's like a stick and then a portion of the building that are going to combine to make the shape you wanted. Yeah. I was up there for so long, and I was
like in the roof of that building, right?
Yeah, and I couldn't find it. And I'm like, when I found it, I'm like, God damn it!
What I love is
it was that simple.
I mean, as you get close to this area, you see the little symbols start popping up, so you know, okay, I'm getting
so
close.
I knew. Yeah, so when you get close to like a certain shape, you'll start to see like that shape in like an orange kind of like hand drawn, almost like font lining or kind of surrounding you. So you know you're in the right spot. And I was looking everywhere, and I could not find anything.
In your defense, that one probably was the hardest for me to find as well, but it also only took me maybe about 30 seconds of searching. Once I got to that spot, I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to be looking for? And I did that for maybe about 30 seconds. Like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. didn't click for me at first. But then you get to the last half of the game, and that's where I think the puzzles really stepped up and made more sense to me.
Yeah.
Again, because it's kind of guiding you. But like there was, I think it's when you are in Helheim, and there's the darkness that's following you, and if you're in the darkness, the beast will like get you. That's the most horrifying portion of the entire game.
There were parts of this game that were terrifying.
Oh yeah. So in this portion of the game, it's one of those find the symbols around here. But what makes it really terrifying is that there's not light everywhere. And when you're not in the light, you have to run for your life towards the nearest light source, because otherwise the darkness will get you. And it's really just a huge mental breakdown that you end up happening. And Senua is just screaming and like thriving in pain, really. And you don't really kind of know what happened. But there's like this demonic beast sound that's kind of like behind you. It's unbelievably terrifying.
I never understood. Was that Fenrir that was chasing you the whole time, or was it just
Fenrir the whole time? There's a portion where they show Fenrir behind you running, or kind of just like in the background almost. So it was definitely Fenrir, yeah. So that was like insanely terrifying.
Speaking of terrifying,
yeah,
my favorite part of the game was the four shards of the sword that you had to do.
Before, 'cause I'm going to point about the puzzles in that area before we go too far into the terrifying part.
Go for it.
So
go for it.
But like the reason like that area of the puzzle made sense is that you were kind of guided to go into certain areas, and when you're exploring, you're kind of like, I don't want to go down here, but I know that I have to, and so there's just like more of a mental battle I was having with myself getting to that point.
Yeah.
And then because it kind of guided you in a certain direction, I kind of found the area. I'm like, oh, this is where that puzzle's supposed to be now, and like I don't know, I was kind of guided to that section. That's all I want to say. You can say everything now. I'm sorry.
My favorite part of the game was the 4 shards of the sword that you have to collect, and each one is kind of their own.
That's where it got really good for
types
me.
Of puzzle. Yeah, their own unique type of puzzle. But kind of going off the horror thing, the one where it's pitch black.
Yes.
And you can hear the monsters, and you can kind of see a faint outline of them, but you have to walk really slowly throughout, and like dodge, and as you can kind of see them moving back and forth in front of you too, and you have to like anticipate where they're going to be. I didn't breathe that entire fucking time.
Oh,
it was absolutely horrifying.
So tense, because there's, again, you can kind of see the shadows coming, but there's so much uncertainty if you're even heading in the right direction. You have no idea. Like your controller will kind of vibrate to kind of tell you you're kind of heading in the right direction, but you're heading in the direction for so long, you're like, am I ever going to get there? I have no idea.
Or if you start to get even a little too close to one of these things, the sounds that you start hearing.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And they will chase you too.
Will they? I never actually got close enough to one that would actually
start to chase you.
Me.
So if you get close, you can kind of run away, but then you kind of can't hear what's going on as much. That was unbelievably terrifying. Totally agree. That was one of the highlights.
My heart is stopping right now.
There's also a really cool puzzle in the 4 shards where you have a torch and kind of find the right path to go through. But you're lighting all the torches to see the way not to go, essentially. And I really liked that one. You can kind of go in a loop if you go the wrong direction. That was pretty cool. I liked that one a lot. And it took me a second to realize how to get around that one, because there's one point that tripped me up for a second. Not the hour I was stuck around, but like a healthy amount of time to be stuck in an area that you're not an idiot for.
What were the other ones? There was the kind of very Zelda theme with the big tower and the masks, where you're going between the old and the new version of the world, and parts of it are destroyed, and you have to get around it.
It was very much like Light World, Dark World kind of idea there, yeah.
That was pretty cool. And you're finding runes, of course, the whole time in it. Mm-hmm. What was the 4th one?
The 4th one was... you're in the water, and you had to like put the bridge together. There was that one.
You're in the water and you put the bridge together.
You're following Dillian.
I don't remember.
Okay, well, you said you don't remember what the 4th one is, and I'm telling you what the 4th one is. And
that doesn't click
the pieces,
for anything.
though.
That doesn't click for me.
Maybe you're the idiot.
Let's talk about the other part of the gameplay.
The
combat, yeah. This I felt was super smooth.
Super smooth, yes.
Yeah.
it started off, and I'm like, this isn't bad combat. It's just very simplistic. But then they start to ramp it up, and it starts to get very chaotic. And the enemy variety really plays into it as well. So initially, you're just kind of getting guys with swords. You can knock them out pretty easily. Then they show, like, the typical guy with a shield. You have to, like, bash your shield to make him stagger. Then you can, like, start hitting him. But then they start throwing some really wild enemies at you. So there's this guy who has 2 axes, and he moves very fast, and he's very brutal when he hits you. He can also throw the axes at you, but at a certain point, he kind of like turns into this like dark smoke almost.
Yeah, that you can't hit.
You can't hit him unless you either use your focus. We haven't actually talked about focus yet. So focus is when you complete a puzzle that requires perspective and kind of finding those runes or like looking at the shards of something and finding the right perspective on it to combine it to one again. You're using the right trigger to focus on those items so that way you're targeting it specifically. So you can focus on enemies at a certain point in combat and it'll kind of freeze them. But when there's this shadowy kind of like smoke form, it re-reveals them again. You can also just block at the right time to also get that to happen.
Yeah.
Did you come across that?
Yeah.
That saved my life when I figured that one out, because I just used a focus, and then that guy turned to shadow, and I'm like, damn it, I can't do anything that will increase my focus again to get it back, and then I happened upon the blocking. It saved my life, but the combat's good because there's little tiny things that you would never notice. There's like, unless you really experimented with it. So there is, the circle is your melee like attack to kind of stagger guys with shields.
Yeah.
You have a light attack, you have a heavy attack, and you have an evade button. And the focus kind of plays into it as well. But like if you do like a quick block at the right time and then hit triangle for your heavy attack, it'll send enemies flying backwards.
Yep.
And it's kind of like finding the opportunities to link these together. Now it starts easy because you're only facing one enemy at a time, then 2 at a time, but then it gets to like 3 at a time, which is already hard, then 4 at a time, then 5 at a time, and finally, like the very last area, you're just absolutely surrounded by enemies, and it really does get brutally hard.
It does, yeah. It starts. So it is. I called it Dark Souls light.
Yes,
because it is mostly one-on-one focus. You're like hitting an enemy at a time, and your camera kind of moves from enemy to enemy.
But Dark Souls, your position with the enemy matters.
Right, exactly. And it's very much about timing your dodges or your blocks and then attacking them when they're weak or after you've done a successful dodge or something like that. But mechanically, it doesn't get very difficult. But you do have to get skillful with it and learn the enemy's attack patterns and things like that. It got
pretty difficult. There were some points where I was really having a hard time getting past some of these enemies.
There are a couple of times in this game where it falls into the same trap that every video game does, where they're going to send you just endless waves of every enemy you've ever fought, every enemy type, and then they're going to send all the hard ones, and then they're going to send a huge giant-ass group. And, God, I wish... Like, that's not fun to me. It's difficult for the sake of being difficult. And one of them was in the warrior trial, where you're trying to prove yourself to be worthy of the sword. And then the second couple were at the end of the game as you're crossing the bridge. And the bridge was even harder because you don't have that open environment like you did in what was it, like the river Styx. It's not Styx because it's not Greek, but it's kind of that same idea in Norse mythology. But you're in this blood lake for the warrior trials.
Oh, the sea of corpses.
Yeah, but that's you had a semi-open area there, but then you're on the bridge and you're fighting 8 or 9 of these things at a time, and I just had to find a way to
sometimes they'll spawn behind you and you don't know it.
Until you hear the voices in your head, behind you, there's a guy behind you.
That was awesome. I love how they talk to you like that. I wish you kind of had that help in puzzles sometimes, because I think that would have lessened my frustration. But in combat, they are very useful. That bridge part drove me absolutely insane. So this is literally right before you fight the final boss. There's just this bridge. You're like, they even say this is your final task. You're like, cool, I know this is it. And then you're just stuck in this endless wave of enemies, it seems like, and they're really, each wave is pretty hard,
and it just keeps getting bigger. I had to just dodge and get all of them on one side of me, and then start picking them off, and then of course they would spawn behind me and I have to dodge and get my way to the other side of the bridge.
So this is where I realized that the permadeath mechanic doesn't actually happen.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so there's permadeath in the game, and it's
really what they say at the very beginning of it.
It is implied permadeath. So the idea is that every time you die, your arm will start to rot up. And then as it gets up your arm and gets to your face, then you'd presumably have to restart the game again.
Yeah, they tell you in the beginning of the game,
they tell you,
if the darkness reaches your brain, that will be the end of your journey and you'll have to restart.
Yeah. And it's not true.
It's not true.
And I
but
noticed
I fucking love it.
Yes, because the whole time I'm playing it, I'm wondering, oh my god, I'm not going to make this through. I'm going to have to do this all over again, because if I die one more time, then and then I kept realizing, okay, I kept saying I was going to die one more time, and then there's no consequence to this. But it's still stuck in your head, because you're like, okay, I don't think this is real, but it might be real. I don't know.
And that's part of the psychosis.
Exactly.
Like, it puts you in her spot where everything has this tiny thing that doesn't matter suddenly has such big significance, because it's a video game. You can die over and over and over, but when you think your save file is going to be deleted, you put a lot more power and a lot more weight into each death, and you freak the fuck out over it.
Yes. Like, you feel Senua's own, like, frustrations going through this, or own fear.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're going to make it or not. Even though you're totally going to make it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, you're going to make it. It's going to be great. But I love that they put that in there, even though it's a blatant lie. They tell you it'll delete your save. It's a blatant lie.
It makes me upset that there was already stories coming out saying that it's a sham. And it's
I know.
Really
that's why I kind of hated that you mentioned that last week during the regular podcast. I didn't know that it wasn't real until after I beat the game.
Okay.
And I was... the very last battle...
It didn't really hit me how great of a mechanic it was until it's kind of in the last, like, few levels or so.
Yeah.
Where it really hit me that I'm like, oh, okay, because they say it doesn't happen, but maybe it is still a thing. It was still kind of in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
But it would have been even more in my head if I hadn't seen that. But how it works, this is kind of cool. So how it works is, if you're in the first level of the game, it'll only kind of get up to, like, your hand.
Right.
But if you're, like, half of the game, it'll get to your elbow. And so I was at the end of the game, and mine was all the way up my arm. And so I kept thinking, okay, I'm, like, there. So this is a thing I'm going to find out pretty soon. And then you kind of start questioning yourself, saying, okay, is there more rot? Is there not more rot? I don't really know. Like, there could be more rot there. It could be building. It could not be building. I have no idea. And it just, again, plays into that questioning of yourself the whole time.
I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I didn't know how fast it would travel up your arm, because I only died maybe twice the whole game.
Oh, wow. You did a lot better than I did.
Yeah, so I
did some certain combat sequences many, many times over, because they were very hard. Yeah.
I was so worried, because I was like, how many times is it? Is it 5 times? Is it 10 times? I've died twice, and it's kind of like halfway up my forearm right now. So I was freaking the fuck out. In the last battle, where it is literally endless, and you have to come to terms with it and say, hey, stop holding on to this, let yourself go, and you have to let them kill you. I fought that battle for about 20 minutes. And I just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. Yeah, and it got harder. Like, it got wavier, and I got slower. And, like, you get knocked down, and you're supposed to let them kill you. But I kept getting back up, because I'm like, I don't know. Am I supposed to die here? And then that's 20 minutes that I've wasted. I'm going to have to do it all again. If I die, is that the end of the game? Did I fucking fail right at the end? So I fought that for about 20 minutes before I finally listened to the voices that say, let go, let go. And I was like, fine, I'll fucking do it. But I was so nervous about doing it.
Because that was a great moment in the game, too, because those voices are always talking to you, but sometimes they don't tell you the right thing.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
okay, whether to trust them or not.
Well, because my reaction was, I'm in the room with the darkness right now. If it's going to fuck with me even more, from there, it's going to fuck with me even more. And I just kept fighting again, too, because I'm like, no, I'm not going to let go. I refuse. 1 second, sorry. I got a message. So that last part was really good, but... because it kind of, I think, for me, highlighted the enemy design, seeing them all at once like that. Yeah. I want to talk about the enemy design for a second. I think that's one of the strongest aspects of this game.
Oh, absolutely.
These the enemy design.
Were so fucking cool and terrifying looking.
So we talked about Fenrir earlier.
Yeah, Fenrir,
sorry. That might be one of my favorite bosses in a game. It was just so cool how it played out. So what happens is... you have Dillion's head as you're carrying with you the whole time, and then you drop it down this really dark hole, and you have to go down that dark hole to get it. When you're at the bottom of it, Fenrir, who's the beast who's trying to kill you in the darkness, is there, and the whole area is mostly dark except for one kind of small patch of light, and you kind of have to fight him in there. And he's just this big hulking beast, which is really the big first hulking beast that you really face in the game. So you're already kind of intimidated, because you're like, okay, Enemies are kind of tough. At least for me, they were tough. Sounds like they weren't that tough for you.
I'm just so good.
But now I'm facing against something that's really monstrous and terrifying, and he's already killed me several times being in the darkness. I know this guy is powerful, and he'll just hide in the darkness and jump out of the darkness, and you have to listen for where he's going to be coming from to know to dodge him at the right time.
Yes. Oh my god, that was so nice. The way that the 3D audio worked, where you're listening. All right, I can hear it behind me, or I can hear it kind of over the left side,
me, or like you kind of like, oh, it's only my right side right now. I kind of waited for it to be lined up with both headphones, and then I knew, okay, he's in front of me now, and he'd lunge out, and I'd jump out of the way. But at a certain point, he'll breathe out darkness, and the whole area goes completely dark, and you don't know what's happening. Those parts scare the crap out of me, because the whole time I'm thinking, oh crap, I can't die any more times. Like, I think I'm already at the end of this. So like I just start dodging like crazy, because I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. You can focus, and then you can kind of see him.
Yeah.
And you start attacking him again. So it just played off these elements. But what's great about the game is that it never tells you what to do directly.
It doesn't. Yeah.
So you're kind of like. So you're kind of like, okay, well, if I focus right now, maybe I'll be able to see him. Like, great, cool, I can, but only for a second. And you come back to the focus again, and it's still dark, and you're still terrified.
Yep.
One of my favorite bosses, just for how the game led you up to that point with the mechanics, played out so beautifully.
Let's talk about some of the other bosses.
Yeah.
The fire guy, I can't remember his name. But one of the first two kind of tutorial-esque ones.
Yeah.
I thought they were so freaking brilliantly designed, not only aesthetically, but they were so different, like in the way that the battle went and you're fighting. So
yeah.
Like there's the Raven boss where he's flying at you and he throws like the little hooks around that can get you, and then there's the more like melee focused, not as fast as the Raven guy, the fire guy. But what I really fucking loved about these bosses is what they represented to Senua. And it's literally in her head. You don't kind of realize this at the time, but in her head, the Raven is fear. And she's literally confronting her own fear of her illness, of the way that she's been treated, of herself. And then you see the fire guy that's like her confronting all of the anger and the volatileness of what she's feeling towards those who killed Dillian and things like that. Like she's literally confronting her demons by fighting these fucking demons. And I loved that idea. And I love that you don't really get it at the time, but then you look back on it after you realize what this game is about and kind of the context of it all.
It's the first story-based game that I've played that I want to replay, because it will make more sense given context you get at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And
that's what I mentioned. Like, the game itself is good, and then you get to the end of the game and realize just how fucking great it all was. But you don't realize that until you have context.
Like, I'm like, fully expecting that, as much as I didn't like the first half of that game, because I now know why things are playing out the way they were, I'm going to have a much stronger appreciation for that opening sequence for me. And it's also going to show how much confusion is a part of the game. Yeah. And just being confusing, being frustrated is part of the game. That's not a risk that you see developers take often at all, if ever. You don't want your players to feel confused, but you had to feel confused for this to play out that way.
And especially in a this is technically it was an indie game because they self-published, but with a studio of this kind of pedigree, seeing them take a risk like this is pretty impressive.
Absolutely.
You would see that like in the indie game market, like on Steam or something like that, but
yeah. God. I do want to talk about this game's like place, like where I think this game's going to sit in like gaming history. But is there anything else you want to talk about the game itself before we go into that?
I want to talk about the sound design.
Yeah.
I thought it was literally the best sound design I've ever heard in a video game.
100% agree with you.
Whether it is from the voices in your head that are constantly talking to you from other, like you're walking across a bridge or climbing up a ladder, like, look down, no, don't look down, it's terrifying, don't look down, oh, look down. Or you hear them like helping you out in battle because you're so close in battle, like the camera is so close on your character that you do have a very small perspective. So they're kind of helping you out. Senua behind you, or look out, block, and things like that. It's
great too is how thought out everything the sound design is. Like at first something I was thinking about, I'm like, oh, that doesn't work, and then I thought about, like, no, that totally works. And that's like the lore stones. You'll find a lore stone and he'll start talking to you, but sometimes the voices in your head are talking to you already, And then you start talking with Lore Stone, and I'm like, oh, but the audio's overlaid. And I'm like, no, but that's just how it would be. Like,
Yeah.
you have so much happening in your head. And that's why using the headphones works so well. And it's the 3D audio aspect, but it also, if you're watching this on a TV, what I noticed when I was playing for the half hour is that you lose that effect of psychosis because the sounds aren't right there.
Right.
I feel so
They're not
isolated.
literally in your head.
They're not literally in your head, exactly. I feel so isolated when I play the game with headphones because of it, but that just adds to the experience even more. It's the only console game I've ever played that I've thought to myself, even if I had an amazing sound system in my house, like you do,
Yeah.
I would still play with headphones. It is 100% better with headphones.
I did try it when Jessie came. She came home while I was playing it, and it was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I'm just playing with headphones, and she's on the couch beside me. So it's like, we have surround sound. This might be like very similar. So I played about 20 minutes of it just with the surround sound instead of the headphones. It's like, oh no, this is just it
doesn't
not the
work.
same. And so because of the headphones and the binaural audio that they have in there, like it, aside from VR, this is absolutely the most immersive gaming experience I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where you're like,
could not play this game in VR. I think it'd be too scary. It'd be too scary.
It would be way too scary. But I mean, also some other elements of it, like the live action video.
Yeah,
like there wouldn't really be a way to do that in VR because they would have to film it from a 360 degrees with so many different cameras. Where now they film it from one angle, and that's the angle you see in the game because it's also controlled. Yeah. But also in VR, it wouldn't work because so much of it is them controlling what you're seeing with the camera.
Yes. Yeah. The live action, it's also, this is the first game for me that they've put live action elements in to coincide with the kind of CGI elements in the game, and it works so well because the graphics are just that good.
Yeah,
Senua's facial animations, and she's one of the most believable characters in the game for the writing and all that kind of stuff, of course, but because of the facial expressions and how she moves and animates
and her performance.
Her performance. You were saying in the last episode, not this week's last episode, but like last week's last episode, where that was just one of the video editors, and they used her to stage certain things, and they're going to hire a real actor to get in there, and like, actually, we just like your performance, so just keep doing this.
Yeah,
and she was great. There were some people complaining about her performance. Apparently, I don't know what you can complain about. It was pretty perfect.
Oh no, it was stellar. One of my favorite characters, one of my favorite performances in video games of all time.
Yeah, she's one of the most human characters to ever be in a video game.
Yeah.
She's not some superhero badass or anything like that. She's a badass, but not for the same reasons that like Nathan Drake would be a badass or Lara Croft would be a badass. Samus Aran. She's so flawed as a human.
Yeah. And
it works brilliantly, and they play off the flaws in the gameplay. It's just everything plays well into itself. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent there, but it's just that good. It's just that good. It really is. You're getting me really excited about talking about this game now. Like, I was really liking the game, now we're talking about it. I'm like, I really fucking love this game.
I know. I'm so excited for you to watch that short documentary in the game as well, because that's the kind of thing where when they actually show you, all right, these are the behavioral and psychologists, like the experts that we brought in on the game, and then they have like 8 or 9 real life people with these types of psychoses that they're working with, and they interview them and they say, all right, what kind of things do you see? And they describe their experiences in real life, and then they literally show you in the game how they implemented that as a mechanic. And seeing the two, like, I'm getting
that's
look at this,
cool.
Look at these goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps right now. My
so
nipples
we're
are hard.
FaceTiming right now. He has goosebumps, literal goosebumps right now.
I do.
saw them.
Just thinking how cool, like seeing the development aspect of that game and seeing how they are directly implemented with the gameplay mechanics or with the audio just makes you appreciate it even that much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you want to talk about in the game?
I just want to talk about like your favorite areas of the game.
Sure.
Like, what are your kind of favorite moments? You can start if you want to.
I
already had one on my top of my head if you want.
Go for it.
Okay, so I think the Sea of Corpses was just so hellish.
Yeah.
So what happens is you're walking, and there's a few portions where you're walking through water. In this case, you're walking through rivers of blood.
Yeah.
And there are these hands coming out of the walls to grab you in the beginning, which is one of my biggest fears, actually. It sounds really stupid. But
really?
When I was a kid, I watched this YouTube video, and I can probably find it and send it to you, where there's like this hand monster, And it's really convincing and pretty real looking. And all these hands start coming out of the walls and trying to grab at someone. And it freaks me out. And it's one of the most terrifying things I've seen to this day. And that's in the game. And I'm like, no, don't do this to me. It freaked me out so much. There are bodies coming out of the walls and stuff, accompanied by the rivers of blood. And looking up, there's just this giant storm. It's just so atmospheric and absolutely terrifying. That the whole time playing it out, I'm like, this is gotta be one of the last levels of the game because it's just so intense right now, and then it keeps going after that.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite areas of the game. There's also Helheim, which is where the darkness is chasing you. We've already talked about that, so I won't go too much into that. But just being in the darkness and being afraid to go forward.
Yeah.
It looked like legitimately afraid. Like in The Last of Us, I was afraid to go forward, but I'm like, I'm gonna go forward because I'm going to. Like, I'll be fine. Whereas this is, I'm like, I legitimately don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. This game has fucked with me so much, I don't know what's going to happen. So that was also a highlight for me in the game as well.
I loved it all. I can't think of any one particular location that I'm like... I mean, yeah, aesthetically, the Sea of Corpses was so freaking cool. It's just all so good. It's just all so good. I'm going to look up real quick pictures of the 4th trial so I can remember what that fucking thing was, because your
I did the trials out of order.
I think I did them on the island. I did them kind of counterclockwise, which apparently, if you got the lore stones, it said it was out of order. Oh, speaking of it, did you get all the lore stones?
I did not. I'm like, oh, I did a good job. I think I got all of them. And then you get to the end where they fill in the gate. I'm like, that's a lot of red letters that didn't get filled in. Yeah, it was not a whole lot of them, but I got the majority of them.
I got every single one of them. There's a small little video that you unlock as you are...
I ended up watching it, yeah.
Yeah. I got all of them because I was like... Oh, I looked at the trophy list, and I was like, oh man, this is really like the only like collectibles trophy. I thought there would be one for like all the times you get to see her mom like in the statues. I was like, all right, gotta make sure I see her mom, but that turns out to only be like 2 places. But yeah, I got all of them. Got that platinum. That was a good rewarding platinum.
By the way, you totally sent me a screenshot of you getting that platinum in a spoiler full area.
I mean, it's literally just a picture of her lying on the ground. The only reason I did that is because it was a quick, easy way for me to get that screenshot so I could post it online. Because if I share that from my PS4, there's no like email to yourself or something like that. So I sent it to you as a message, and then I went to the iOS app and saved it to my phone.
So I was trying to take a screenshot too, but it was in the middle of combat. I'm like, I gotta get a screenshot of this. This is too funny. There is a point in Helheim where you go into this room that's completely dark, and you have to fill the torches to see the blood pattern that's the shape on the floor, right?
Yeah.
Before you go to the last torch, there's an enemy there. And you drop your torch, except my torch just kept floating in the middle of the arena, like 5 feet above ground. And I kept trying to get a screenshot of it because I thought it was hysterical. But the enemy was too fast and I couldn't do it because when you go to hit a screenshot, it doesn't pause the game. I came so close to dying, and I don't think I got the screenshot. I never got it. I was so upset.
The swamp. That's the 4th one.
Yes, the one where you walk through the water and fill in the bridge, just like I said. That doesn't ring a bell at all, Holden.
That's every part of the game. There's a part where you walk through water and build a bridge.
There's like 2.
If you just would have said the word swamp, you failed me.
Well, nope, I didn't fail you. You failed me.
Prove it.
I think the audio that we've recorded is enough. Our audience will tell us.
That was Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Mm-hmm. It is right now kind of battling Horizon. It's like a close second, I think, to Horizon for my game of the year. One of my favorite games of all time. Obviously, if you're listening to this, hopefully you've played the game. Otherwise, stop, go back in time, erase your memory, and go buy the game for $30. I think the fact that it was $30 too is like, so there's no reason not to get this game.
Let's get into that, because I think that's the one of the big stories in terms of the game and its place in the industry.
Yeah.
All the stuff we talked about is really great and all, but I think the fact that this is a $30 game and it's as solid of an experience that it is opens doors for other experimental games like this to come out. And I'm really excited about this. And I really hope that, in 10 years we look back at Hellblade and say, because Hellblade happened, we had all these other really incredible experiences come out. as well.
Did you read? There was a letter from Ninja Theory about pre-ordering this game.
I did not see that.
It was a couple months ago. God damn it, I wish I could find this letter right now. Damn it. There was a letter from Ninja Theory when they were trying to like push pre-orders, and they just wrote an open letter to the gaming industry and to customers everywhere that said, "Hey, we have a game coming out that we believe a lot in. We want to put the mid-range developer, that AA title, we want to make that a thing again. Right now it's just AAAs and indies, and there's no space in between. That's why we know we're a small team. We have a lot of ambition, and we have a lot of hope in this game, but we understand we're a small team, and that's why we've priced it appropriately. It's $30. So if you could, please pre-order it for us. It would help us out a lot in getting our name out there, things like that." But it was a really humbling letter from them that perfectly defines where they are hoping to be in this industry, and kind of what's missing and what we're trying to build back to, or what they hope to build back up.
Well, I think what's happened in the industry, and I don't think that anyone's really going to debate this, but things have kind of become stale a little bit, in the sense that, like, I'm going to use your favorite game of the year as an example of this. So I'm sorry, but like Horizon, from what I played, was a really, really solid game. Beyond the story, I didn't really get the sense there were a lot of original gameplay ideas.
Really? Even in all those different weapons?
I didn't like shooting a bow. That's not that original.
You didn't get the tripcaster and the
fine. Okay, that's
ropecaster, and
I guess I forgot about that stuff. All right, you're making me look like a fool now, Chad.
You also you never even got to the good part of the story.
Right, but nothing in terms of the kind of experimentation we saw in Hellblade. The ability to trip enemies does not compare to battling
I can't
psychosis.
think of anything in recent memory, in the last few years, it takes any risks as much as Hellblade does.
Exactly, but I think that the fact that like the big gameplay innovation in Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm not putting that game down at all, by the way. I'm just saying that like because it's a AAA game, they can't make super serious risks like this. The big innovation was being able to trip enemies.
Like, I don't think that's what everyone was freaking out about, how good Horizon was.
No, I agree, but like they're saying, hey, we're gonna try some new things in here, and that's the kind of stuff they did. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, because they're making a AAA game, they can't make big risks because they can't lose that much money. But if you have these AA game experiences, they're like, hey, let's just go wild with this and do something you've never seen in gaming before. Whereas like Horizon stuff is a further, like say, evolutionary step from other open world action RPGs that existed before it. There's nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't. That kind of thing doesn't allow for game-changing experiences that Hellblade offers and that other games could offer when there's not as much money in the line. I feel like you're mad at me for saying this.
No, I think you haven't played enough of Horizon to speak with any kind of like.
I'll use Fallout
I don't think what you're saying is
example.
accurate enough. I do think yes, it doesn't take the risk that Hellblade does, but nothing does. But I do encourage you to actually go back and play Horizon.
That's on my backlog
real.
of games. I'm gonna play that.
Yeah,
it's actually
and then
I'm
you'll
gonna play
realize
Metro
that
Last
it is
Light
a
and then I'm
lot.
doing Horizon.
It's a lot more different than you think it is.
Okay, so well, I'll say like Fallout 4 as an example. Really fun game. Really enjoyed that. But is it really that much different than Fallout 3? Not really.
No,
there's some
it's not.
slightly differences. There's like the creation elements and all that. But I'd say like adding creation to a game is not innovative. It's kind of like, hey, Minecraft did it, so let's just try that in our game too. Minecraft was a AA game. It's not. I mean, it's indie, but it's more than that.
It was a little baby indie, and then it became eventually over time. Yeah.
So like to see this experimentation to really push the industry forward, we need the niche that Hellblade has created.
Yeah.
And I think in that regard, it's probably one of the most important games of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah, I would love
for
to be
where
able
we
to...
currently see it right now. I mean, that could change, obviously, depending on what happens in the next 10, 15 years. But like for right now, it seems like if this opens the doors that I hope it will, it could be one of the most important games of all time.
Yeah, I just hope it gets enough coverage and enough press and enough people play it.
I think it has.
To realize it.
I think it has got enough press. If people bought it or not is a different story. So here's one thing that I noticed looking at the trophy list. It seems like about a third of people finished the game. who buy the game, a third of people finish it. I'm not sure that's a good
Yeah.
track record or not, but if they were as frustrated as I was, they're going to leave the game saying, Hellblade was kind of And
It still cracks me up that you were so lost in the beginning.
so lost in the beginning. So I really hope that's not people's experience with it, because it is so innovative, I feel. There's never been a game that combines storytelling and gameplay and honestly lofty concepts in such a cohesive manner.
Yeah. I concur, Doctor.
I got my PhD in Hellblade.
Hellblade, PhD. Well, that has to be the end of this discussion because my computer's at 3% battery, and I don't feel like getting up to get the charger. But that was an enthralling 50 minutes. That's a long time.
Yeah, that was almost as long as the episode we just recorded.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Send us your impressions. If you hated it, send us that too, and then I'll judge you. Thank you for joining me, Holden. Join us next week for some stuff that we talk about.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Tiger lilies.